Hey guys, welcome to Boxing Squared for boxing news and views from around the internet. In this video, covering the ring returns of Otto Wallin and also Justis Huni. So we'll start with Wallin, who has returned to the ring in the United States. In Atlantic City, he was facing in a main event for Boxing Insider Promotions Onoriode Ehwarieme, the Nigerian, the number 320 in the world. He's quite chinny, and it proved to be so in this fight. All over lickety-split in one round. Basically, the first shot in anger from Otto Wallin floored Ehwarieme. It was a left hand, so effectively he was looking to size him up, using the jab, pouring away, and then just nailed him with the left hand. Ehwarieme goes down like a sack of potatoes off a cliff. He gets up and then he clatters into the referee, and the referee waves it off. So he's back. Otto Wallin with a win, a stoppage, and for Otto Wallin, it's actually a bit of a rare stoppage. He's not known as a massive knockout puncher. 27 wins so far with 15 knockouts. He hasn't had a knockout win for some considerable time. I'm actually just looking at the record here. We're going back to 2018 against a lower ranked journeyman. So Otto Wallin returns with a bang, gets a knockout, and gets that winning feeling back. And you have to ask the question, okay, well, what now for the Swedish heavyweight? The number 13 on BoxRec, where does he go now? Has this been enough for him to get a seat back at the table for one of the Saudi cards? At the moment, it sort of seems to be a lot of international fighters have been on the Saudi cards, whereas some of the more recently announced cards, like the one in the United States and the one in the UK, they've been more for fighters from those countries. So, you know, is there going to be an expansion to different places, potentially Australia? Could Otto Wallin actually face someone like Justis Huni? Perhaps if Aslanbek Makhmudov wins his fight with Guido Vianello, could Otto Wallin face Makhmudov? Or if Vianello wins, same thing. Otto Wallin probably needs one more decent level fight, maybe a Frank Sanchez, somewhere there or thereabouts, to prove where he's at, to really get, I think, the big sort of fight that he will be after. The one that puts him in position for a title, or in fact is a title fight. But there's going to be, I think, it's a stage where if he's going to be back on a Saudi card, they'll match him relatively toughly. And I wouldn't mind actually seeing him versus Justis Huni. I think that's actually pretty good matchmaking. And I think that's close to a 50-50, but I would favour Justis Huni in that one. I think Huni, and we'll come to him in a moment, he faced Troy Pilcher just a couple of days ago. Huni does have a really good engine, throws a lot of punches, and I think that would be problematic for Otto Wallin. And Huni can obviously box well as well, good speed, so I think he would catch up and tag Wallin all night. So you have a case with Justis Huni in Australia, headlining an event versus Troy Pilcher, who lives in Australia but originally out of New Zealand. Pilcher was unbeaten heading into that one, but it was a very thin resume, 9 wins, 1 draw, and he looked relatively basic from the outset, but he was having an effective sort of first round, trying to crowd and smother Huni, get up on his chest, try to bang away, get some shots off. Second round, and this is where it all ended. Couple of shots in from Pilcher, right hands, but that was basically the only real success of the fight for him. You had Huni really softening him up to the body with some vicious body shots, and then you followed up with some left hooks and some more work to the body, and then Pilcher was opened up, and from there just Huni jumped on him and basically swarmed him and stopped him in the corner. So Justis Huni gets that winning feeling, and also for him, somewhat of a rare stoppage. He moved to 10-0. That was his 5th KO of his career. Huni, as I always mention in videos where it features him, has had a pretty tough run. It's not a normal prospect run. You know, he's faced very tough opposition. Kevin Lorena in his last fight went the distance. Andrew Tabiti, Kikito Latelli before that, Joseph Goodall. Those were all decision wins. His last stoppage came against Paul Gallen in the 10th round of their fight, and that was in 2021. So he's gone a few years without a stoppage, but he has been matched tough. He did take a bit of a big shot towards the end of that Lorena one, but he hung on, and ultimately he claimed in that one the WBO global title, which he defended against Troy Pilcher. So the logical matchup that I think that they should make is a matchup with Dempsey McKean, who's also a matchroom fighter. And I think that's a good matchup for both those guys at this stage of their careers. You do have McKean, who's working his way back from a loss to Filip Hrgović, a year or two ago, and Huni, who's working his way up. Seemingly at this point, I think that's pretty well matched. You've got McKean with some good advantages with the height and the reach, but Huni, I think, would outbox him. He's got the speed, and I think he's got the skill advantage over McKean. But like I say, I think a fight with Otto Wallin, that would be very interesting. I think eventually they will try to work their way to something a bit more lucrative and potentially a trans-Tasman clash with the Joseph Parker, but I think that's sort of a couple of years away, at this point. At the moment, he's got to look around and, try to go for guys that are sort of seemingly on the fringe like he is to, propel himself into the spotlight. So there are some names floating around, and even some of the names that I suggested for the likes of Otto Wallin as well. Someone like a Makhmudov would be a very interesting fight. Frank Sanchez had a horrible fight against Agi Kabiel. Him versus Justis Huni, that would be a great fight, I think. So what did you make of the fight if you caught up with it? Both fights, Otto Wallin versus Onoriode Ehwarieme, stops him in the first round. Justis Huni stops Troy Pilcher in the second round. Drop a comment loud and often. Hit like, hit subscribe. Follow me on Twitter. Boxing_squared. I'm out.